Okay. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, my heart is full right now. Thank you, everyone. Let me start. I want to thank Libby Schaaf, the great mayor of the city of Oakland. Can we hear it for Libby? And that incredible introduction and our long-standing friendship. You know, our mothers were friends together also here in Oakland, and I can't thank you, Libby, enough for your leadership and your friendship. So here we are, here we are. Here we are. Well, let me tell you, I am so proud to be a daughter of Oakland, California. And as most of you know, I was born just up the road at Kaiser Hospital. And it was just a few miles away that my parents first met as graduate students at UC Berkeley, where they were active in the civil rights movement. And they were born half a world apart from each other. My father, Donald, came from Jamaica to study economics. My mother, Kamala, came from India to study the science of fighting disease. They came here in pursuit of more than just knowledge. Like so many others, they came in pursuit of a dream. And that dream was a dream for themselves, for me, and for my sister Maya. As children growing up here in the East Bay, we were raised by a community with a deep belief in the promise of our country and a deep understanding of the parts of that promise that still remain unfulfilled. We were raised in a community where we were taught to see a world beyond just ourselves, to be conscious and compassionate about the struggles of all people. We were raised to believe public service is a noble cause and the fight for justice is everyone's responsibility. In fact, my mother used to say, "Don't sit around and complain about things, do something." And basically, I think she was basically saying, you've got to get up and stand up and don't give up the fight. And it is this deep-rooted belief that inspired me to become a lawyer and a prosecutor. It was just a couple of blocks from this very spot, nearly 30 years ago, as a young district attorney, I walked into the courtroom for the first time and said the 5 words that would guide my life's work. Kamala Harris, for the people. Now, I knew our criminal justice system was deeply flawed, but I also knew the profound impact law enforcement has on people's lives and its responsibility to give them safety and dignity. I knew I wanted to protect people, and I knew that the people in our society who are most often targeted by predators are also most often the voiceless and vulnerable. I believed point, I believed, and on that point, I believed then, as I do now, no one should be left to fight alone. Because you see, in our system of justice, we believe that a harm against any one of us is a harm against all of us. That is why when a case is filed, it doesn't read the name of the victim, it reads the people. And this is a point I have often explained to console and counsel survivors of crime, people who faced great harm, often at the hands of someone they trust, be it a relative or a bank or a big corporation. I would remind them, you are not invisible. We all stand together, because that is the power of the people. In my whole life, I've only had one client, the people. And fighting for the people meant fighting on behalf of survivors of sexual assault, a fight not just against predators, but a fight against silence and stigma. For the people meant fighting for a more fair criminal justice system at a time when prevention and redemption were not in the vocabulary or mindset of most district attorneys. We created an initiative to get skills and job training instead of jail time for young people arrested for drugs. For the people meant fighting for middle-class families who had been defrauded by banks and were losing their homes by the millions in the Great Recession. And I'll tell you, sitting across the table from the big banks, I witnessed the arrogance of power. Wealthy bankers accusing innocent homeowners of fault, as if Wall Street's mess was of the people's making. So we went after the 5 biggest banks in the United States. We won $20 billion for California homeowners. And we passed. And together, we passed the strongest anti-foreclosure law in the United States of America. We did that together. For the people meant fighting transnational gangs who traffic in drugs and guns and human beings. And I saw their sophistication, their persistence, and their ruthlessness. And folks, on the subject of transnational gangs, let's be perfectly clear. The president's medieval vanity project is not going to stop them. Fight for the people to hold this administration accountable. I have seen the amazing spirit of the American people. During the healthcare fight, I saw parents and children with grave illnesses walk the halls of the United States Congress. Families who had traveled across the country at incredible sacrifice. They came to our nation's capital believing that if their stories were heard and if they were seen, their leaders would do the right thing. I saw the same thing with our dreamers. They came by the thousands, by plane, train, automobile. I'm sure they were sleeping 10 deep on someone's living room floor. And they came because they believe in our democracy and the only country they have ever known as home. I met survivors who shared their deepest and most painful personal experiences, who told stories they had never before revealed, even to their closest loved ones, because they believed that if they were seen, that their leaders would do the right thing and protect the highest court in our land. And together, we took on these battles. And to be sure, we've won and we've lost. But we have never stopped fighting. We have never stopped fighting. And that's why we are here today. And that's why we are here today. We are here knowing we are at an inflection point in the history of our world. We are at an inflection point in the history of our nation. We are here because the American dream and our American democracy are under attack and on the line like never before. And we are here at this moment in time because we must answer a fundamental question. Who are we? Who are we as Americans? So let's answer that question to the world and each other right here and right now. America, we are better than this. We are better than this. When we have leaders who bully and attack a free press and undermine our democratic institutions, that's not our America. When white supremacists march and murder in Charlottesville or massacre innocent worshipers in a Pittsburgh synagogue, that's not our America. When we have children in cages crying for their mothers and fathers, don't you dare call that border security. That's a human rights abuse. And that's not our America. When we have leaders who attack public schools and vilify public school teachers, that is not our America. When bankers who crashed our economy get bonuses, but the workers who brought our country back can't even get a raise, that's not our America. And when American families are barely living paycheck to paycheck, what is this administration's response? Their response is to try and take health care away from millions of families. Their response is to give away $1 trillion to the biggest corporations in this country. And their response is to blame immigrants as the source of all our problems. And guys, let's understand what's happening here. People in power are trying to convince us that the villain in our American story is each other. But that is not our story. That is not who we are. That is not our America. You see, our United States of America is not about us versus them. It's about we the people. And in this moment, we must all speak truth about what is happening. We must seek truth, speak truth, and fight for the truth. So let's speak some truth. Let's speak truth about our economy. Our economy today is not working for working people. The cost of living is going up, but paychecks aren't keeping up. For so many Americans, a decent retirement feels out of reach, and the American dream feels out of touch. The truth is, our people are drowning in debt. Record student loan debt, car loan debt, credit card debt, resorting to payday lenders because you can't keep up with the bills. People are drowning in America. We have a whole generation of Americans living with a sinking fear that they won't do as well as their parents. And let's speak another truth about our economy. Women are paid on average 80 cents on the dollar, Black women 63 cents, Latinas 53 cents. And here's the thing, when we lift up the women of our country, we lift up the children of our country, we lift up the families of our country, and the whole of society benefits. Let's speak another truth. Big pharmaceutical companies have unleashed an opioid crisis from the California coast to the mountains of West Virginia, and people, once and for all, we have got to call drug addiction what it is, a national public health emergency. And what we don't need is another war on drugs. Let's speak truth. Climate change is real, and it is happening now. Everybody here knows, from wildfires in the West, to hurricanes in the East, to floods and droughts in the heartland. But we're not going to buy the lie. We're going to act based on science fact, not science fiction. And let's speak an uncomfortable but honest truth with one another. Racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, transphobia are real in this country. And they are age-old forms of hate with new fuel. And we need to speak that truth so we can deal with it. Let's also speak the truth that too many unarmed Black men and women are killed in America. From mass incarceration to cash bail to policing, our criminal justice system needs drastic repair. Let's speak that truth. And let's speak truth. Under this administration, America's position in the world has never been weaker. When democratic values are under attack around the globe, when authoritarianism is on the march, when nuclear proliferation is on the rise, when we have foreign powers infecting the White House like malware, let's speak that truth. And let's speak truth about what are clear and present dangers. And let's speak the biggest truth of all. In the face of powerful forces trying to sow hate and division among us, the truth is that as Americans, we have so much more in common than what separates us. Let's speak that truth. And let's not buy that stuff that some folks are trying to peddle. Let's never forget that on the fundamental issues, we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And you know, some will say, well, we need to search to find that common ground. Here's what I say. I think we need to recognize we are already standing on common ground. I say we rise together or we fall together as one nation indivisible. And I want to be perfectly clear. I'm not talking about unity for the sake of unity. So hear me out. I'm not talking about unity for the sake of unity. I'm not talking about some facade of unity. And I believe we must acknowledge that the word unity has often been used to shut people up or to preserve the status quo. After all, let's remember, when women fought for suffrage, those in power said they were dividing the sexes and disturbing the peace. Let's remember, when abolitionists spoke out and civil rights workers marched, their oppressors said they were dividing the races and violating the word of God. But Frederick Douglass said it best, and Harriet Tubman and Dr. King knew. To love the religion of Jesus is to hate the religion of the slave master. When we have true unity, no one will be subjugated for others. It's about fighting for a country with equal treatment, collective purpose, and freedom for all. That's who we are. That's who we are. And so, I stand before you today clear-eyed about the fight ahead and what has to be done. With faith in God, with fidelity to country, and with the fighting spirit I got from my mother, I stand before you today to announce my candidacy for President of the United States. And I will tell you, I'm running for president because I love my country. I love my country. I'm running to be president of the people, by the people, and for all people. I'm running to fight for an America where the economy works for working people, for an America where you only have to work one job to pay the bills, and where hard work is rewarded, and where any worker can join a union. I am running to declare, once and for all, that health care is a fundamental right, and we will deliver that right with Medicare for all. I am running to declare education is a fundamental right, and we will guarantee that right with universal pre-K and debt-free college. I am running to guarantee working and middle-class families an overdue pay increase. We will deliver the largest working and middle-class tax cut in a generation, up to $500 a month to help America's families make ends meet. And we'll pay for it. We'll pay for it by reversing this administration's giveaways to the top big corporations and the top 1%. I'm running to fight for an America where our democracy and its institutions are protected against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Which is why I will defend this nation against all threats to our cybersecurity. We will secure our elections and our critical infrastructure to protect our democracy. And we will honor our service members and veterans, so no one who has served this country has to wait in line for weeks and months to get what they are owed when they return home on first day. I'm running to fight for an America where no mother or father has to teach their young son that people may stop him, arrest him, chase him, or kill him because of his race. An America where every parent can send their children to school without being haunted by the horror of yet another killing spree. Where we treat attacks on voting rights and civil rights and women's rights and immigrant rights as attacks on our country itself. An America where we welcome refugees and bring people out of the shadows and provide a pathway to citizenship. An America where our daughters and our sisters and our mothers and our grandmothers are respected where they live and where they work. Where reproductive rights are not just protected by the Constitution of the United States, but guaranteed in every state. I'll fight for an America where we keep our word and where we honor our promises, because that's our America. And that's the America I believe in. That's the America I know we believe in. And as we embark on this campaign, I will tell you this: I am not perfect. Lord knows I am not perfect. But I will always speak with decency and moral clarity and treat all people with dignity and respect. I will lead with integrity, and I will speak the truth. And of course, we know this is not going to be easy, guys. It's not going to be easy. And we know what the doubters will say. It's the same thing they've always said. They'll say, it's not your time. They'll say, wait your turn. They'll say, the odds are long. They'll say, it can't be done. But America's story has always been written by people who can see what can be, unburdened by what has been. That is our story. That is our story. And as Robert Kennedy many years ago said, only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly. He also said, I do not lightly dismiss the dangers and the difficulties of challenging an incumbent president. But these are not ordinary times, and this is not an ordinary election. He said, at stake is not simply the leadership of our party and even our country. It is our right to moral leadership of this planet. So today, I say to you, my friends, these are not ordinary times, and this will not be an ordinary election. But this is our America. And so here's the thing. It's up to us. It's up to us. Each and every one of us. So let's remember, in this fight, we have the power of the people. We can achieve the dreams of our parents and grandparents. We can heal our nation. We can give our children the future they deserve. We can reclaim the American dream for every single person in our country. And we can restore America's moral leadership on this planet. So, let's do this.
Just like my country, I'm young, scrappy, I'm hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. You're live in the CNN newsroom. I'm Monica Cabrera in New York as you've just been witnessing Senator Kamala Harris officially launching her bid for the White House. She made her announcement at this rally in her hometown of Oakland, California. And now Kamala Harris joins a crowded field of Democratic presidential hopefuls, which is already the most diverse in modern political history. The so-called 2020 marathon kicking off with a sprint. And joining us to discuss an all-star panel, we have Democratic Congressman Jason Crow, Keith Boykin, a Democratic strategist and former Clinton White House aide, CNN political commentator and Democratic strategist Maria Cardona, Democratic strategist Nina Turner, president of Our Revolution, which is an organization started by Bernie Sanders, and CNN senior national correspondent Kyung Lah, who is there on the ground for us where Kamala Harris just made her official launch, this announcement that she's running for president. So let me start with you, Congressman. I'm so glad to have you with us. You're new to Congress, to Washington, first term, just kicked off at the start of the month. This is a woman who wants to be the next leader of your party. How'd she do?
I think she did really well, Anna. First off, it's a pleasure to be here. You know, what really stuck out to me was the starkly contrasting message that you just heard compared to what you've been hearing out of our president the last 2 years. It's a message of inclusion, diversity, of resuming America's role as a leader in the world, and it's really exciting to me.
Keith, is Kamala Harris the Democrats' best chance to beat Trump in 2020?
Well, I think she gave an impressive speech. It's too early to start handicapping the race and deciding who's the best chance to win. But I think she gave no doubt that she's running as a progressive, which is important. She admitted from the beginning that she's not perfect because no candidate out there is perfect. I think Democrats are going to have to make a decision early on that you can fight for your candidate, fight for who you want to win the nomination. But once that candidate wins, whoever wins the nomination, that we rally together and support that nominee and not be divided by whatever sort of divisions might try to be brought against us.
Nina, did you like what you heard?
It was a strong speech. I mean, a lot of it was very progressive. The education from pre-K to college, certainly the Medicare for all, that certainly progressives have been fighting for a very long time. The recognition that the working poor in this country have been suffering for a very long time. So it was indeed a very strong speech.
Kyung, you've been there, obviously. As you watched the crowd, what resonated the most of what she said?
It was certainly, there were a couple of different points. Every time she said herself in opposition to the current administration, you could hear the ripple of energy through this crowd. This is a city that has been the heart of the opposition to the Trump administration. It has enjoyed that position. And certainly whenever she put herself in opposition to the administration, this is a crowd that ate it up. They are eager and hungry for that separation between what her candidacy would mean and what the Trump administration currently is. That is the touch point here in this particular crowd. And something we should point out too, Anna, as you walk through this crowd, the coalition here that you see, it is extraordinarily diverse. It is young, it is old, it is black, white, Asian, Latino, gay, straight, and that is what they say is very different. And we've been talking a lot about what is it that the Harris campaign will do to set itself apart from the crowded field of Democrats. What the people here will tell you is that there is no person in this Democratic field who looks more like the opposite of the current administration than Kamala Harris, who represents the new face of the Democratic Party, a biracial woman who has took the position of being prosecutorial against the Trump administration. They are eager for that, and you could certainly feel it as this crowd was cheering and jumping on his feet, saying that they cannot wait to see her to get into this fight.
And yet, Kyung, she has faced criticism for her work and her background as a prosecutor and this broader issue of
look at head on. And it's something that's not new for Senator Harris. I mean, throughout her book tour, she was asked questions about it. She did try to address it, that what she wanted to do was to be smart on crime, not tough on crime. She reflects back to her history as a district attorney when she tried to start a new program called Back on Track that would try to ease recidivism, try to prevent that, and try to help people who were inside solidify the system to become active in society where they wouldn't return to jail. So that's something that she addressed early on. She made sure to address this within the first 10 minutes of her speech, saying that as a prosecutor, she wanted to change the system from the inside out. And it is something that she's going to have to speak to, especially when it comes to the black community. This is a very concerning issue. Whenever you talk to anyone who is her supporter, they say she needs to talk about it. She needs to talk about it again and again, as much as she can, in order to solidify that base.
Maria, given who is already running, not just Kamala Harris, you have Elizabeth Warren. Obviously, there have been a number of other announcements. Julian Castro, who was on with our Jake Tapper this morning. I think the list is now up to 7 who officially thrown their names in the hat, entered the ring, so to speak, whichever analogy you want to use. Do you think, given how many people have already announced, is now changing the calculus for the people who haven't announced yet? The Bernie Sanders, Beto O'Rourke's, Cory Booker, Joe Biden, the list goes on.
Well, I think that certainly as more people jump into the race, the people who have yet to announce are going to be feeling the pressure to either do it soon or to make it clear that they're not going to do it. That's for sure. Because even as of now, Anna, we have a richness of talent, a richness of diversity, both in background, in gender, in policies. But what really stuck out to me today, Anna, was not just the progressive policy issues, which I think are incredibly important, as our other panelists pointed out, but that I think we see a clear manner in how Kamala Harris is going to differentiate herself from Donald Trump if she actually ends up being the Democratic nominee. And that is focusing on our American values. And within an administration and this presidency that for the last 2 years has done nothing but denigrate and desecrate the Oval Office, has done nothing but denigrate and desecrate our values of empathy, inclusion, diversity, and the fact that we are all equal and that we should all have the opportunity to move ahead no matter what kind of status you were born into, that has been lost. Our pride, our American pride, has taken a hit because of who was in the Oval Office. And I think Kamala showed the path through which she would go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump to focus on what really makes America great. And it's the people, it's the diversity, it's the differences that we have that actually bring us together in common to fight for a better and more secure future for our children. And I think she really made that clear.
Let me pick up on that because this Democratic field of presidential candidates obviously still developing. But Keith, we talk about the diversity here. I mean, look at what we have already. We have 4 women, a Hispanic man, an Afghan war veteran who's openly gay and married. How big of a deal is this?
I think it's a huge deal. It's a reflection of the diversity of the American public, a reflection of the diversity in the Democratic Party. And I think the Republican Party is at risk of becoming like dinosaurs if they don't catch up. They continue to run candidates who don't reflect the diversity of America. And you see that in the leadership of the Republican Party. You see that in the leadership of the Republicans in Congress. And the Democrats have been doing the exact opposite. You know, I remember I used to work in the Clinton administration back in the 1990s. He used to talk about building an American government that looks like America. Here we are in 2019, and we still don't have a government that looks like American. There's no African Americans in any senior position anywhere in the entire Trump White House right now. That's an outrage. And yet here we have two.
Ben Carson, right?
He's not in the White House, though. He's a cabinet official.
True.
But if you go, I used to work in the White House. There's no African American senior officials in the Trump White House right now. Omarosa was the only one. She's gone. She wasn't even qualified to be there in the first place. And so it's a reflection of an administration that does not take seriously the concerns of people who are black and brown and why they have been vilifying black and brown people and trying to basically exculpate any sort of problems that might have been created from people who were part of his base. That's not a solution for a recipe for success in our future. It's a recipe for failure in 2020. The Republican Party has to catch up.
Congressman, you won in a district. You beat an incumbent Republican who had been in Congress 5 or 6 terms, I believe, Mike Kaufman in Colorado. You are the face of this sort of evolving Democratic Party and fresh blood in Congress. What is your message to any of these 2020 candidates about what you think it takes to break through with voters.
Well, Keith was absolutely right in that there's no other way to put this, that this is positive for America and for the country. The diversity of this field and the diversity of candidates that we saw in November during this, the congressional races was really important not only for the Democratic Party but for the country. We are standing up and saying a very strong counter message to this White House and to Donald Trump about who we are as a country, what our values are, what we're going to put up with and what we're not going to put up with. We're ready to stand up for our values and the people of our community, and we do that by putting up candidates that represent this country, represent their communities, and diversity is a big part of that.
But what are the priorities for the Democrats?
We have to be focusing on leveling the playing field. People in my district, they want to work hard. They just want a fair shake. Right? Then nobody wants a handout.
So you're talking about income equality?
Income inequality, the criminal justice system reforms that you heard Senator Harris talk about, the lack of public education equality in my community. Every young child should be able to walk out of his or her front door and go to a neighborhood public school and have the same opportunity of anyone else, regardless of the color of their skin or the zip code that they grow up in. Those are the things that made America great historically. Those are the things that this Democratic Party stands for, that I talked about in my campaign, and you're hearing candidates talk about throughout the country.
All of you, thank you so much. Got to squeeze in a quick break. Congressman Jason Crow, so nice to meet you. Maria Cardona, Nina Turner, Kyung Law, and Keith Boykin. You guys are coming back. Make sure you watch CNN's special town hall with Senator Kamala Harris, hosted by Jake Tapper. That is tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on CNN. We'll be right back.